Very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. A slightly later edition this evening, but better late than never, of course. This is the 2 meter temperature anomalies across Europe for the month of September, and it looks as if it's going to be potentially the warmest September in recorded history for the European continent. The only areas that are below average, as you can see here, is across parts of Iberia and, close to average across Greece, where we've had not one but two devastating rain events. Storm Daniel, of course, and then followed by Storm Elias, which dumped a further. So I had over 700 millimeters of rain within a 24-hour period with Storm Daniel. And then in the last couple of days, we've had Storm Elias, a stalled system stuck over the central Mediterranean basin, lingering over Greece. The town of Volos recorded a further 300 plus millimeters of rain within a 24-hour period. So a very, very, very sad situation here in parts of southern Europe with the flooding. But it looks as if, according to the latest Met Office information, with a couple of days ago, this is a tweet by the Met Office saying that provisional figures suggest that September 2023 will in fact be within the top two warmest Septembers on record since the series dating back to 1888 here. So, it was, of course, the front running. That heat wave during the early portion of the month really did make a big difference. And it's the same really with the June heat wave. When you look back at the summer, the June really did skew the entire summer in terms of the allowing it to fall within the top 8 warmest summers in recorded history, despite the fact that we had slightly below average July, slightly above average August. And September is kind of similar to that, although we have held above average conditions pretty much throughout the entire month of September. So it'll be interesting to see what the final figures come out with the Met Office, I think, coming up on Monday. But it's right up there with the warmest Septembers on record here. We'll look at this. We'll look at the El Nino. We'll look at the Madden-Julian Oscillation. We'll look at sea surface temperatures globally. And we will talk about the upcoming winter season in next week's update number 2 of the the winter 2023-24 thoughts. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe if you're interested in meteorology, long range stuff, looking at the bigger, broader picture, also looking at the global weather situation. This coming Sunday, there's a lot of things to cover with regards to the incredible spike in global temperature, where we sitting with regards to the El Nino, etc. The Indian Ocean dipole is becoming stronger in a positive phase. What may that mean later down the road? Looking at the impacts the El Nino and the IOD is having on Australia, for example. They've just had the warmest winter on record, and we're seeing record-breaking temperatures down under as well. South America as well, seeing incredible warmth, all-time records falling in Peru, parts of Argentina, low to nearly mid-40s. So we'll look at that. Lots of things going on when it comes to weather and even climate as well. And I endeavour to try and bring you right here on marfoganweather.com all the latest information here. So as you can see, we are very warm compared to average this September. And what is very interesting, very eye-catching, is some of the model output with regards to not one but 2 surges of exceptionally warm air getting lifted northwards. And really, this is not a massive surprise, given what we've seen in 2023 so far, given what we've seen during the 10-day run with 8 or 7 days above 30 Celsius in the UK, the first time we've ever seen that in recorded history, consecutive days above 30 during the month of September. September being warmer than, any month this year. Remarkable stuff. And, we'll look at that in more detail coming up in the next few days anyway. But this is the GFS ensemble. This is the 850 temperature for the Greater London area. You can see here 2 very notable surges of warmer air. So of course this is at 4,700 to 5,000 feet above London. This is the measurement of the air temperature. And you can see here that we've got an initial spike during next week, and then we've got another one towards the 6th, 7th, 8th of October. There is two spikes in temperature at 850, where some of the models are indicating temperatures above 15 Celsius at 850 millibars, and then we've got another surge. We'll get this drop off slightly below average, if you notice here, and then we've got another surge of warmth coming up towards, like I say, the 6th through 8th period. And the reasons why we're going to see this is that area of high pressure over mainland Europe that has been delivering some outstanding warmth in recent times, remarkable temperatures into the 30s in parts of Greece, Turkey. We're even seeing temperatures into the 30s in, as far north as Ukraine. Overnight temperatures in parts of Denmark, 17 Celsius. Estonia, we're seeing upper teens for minimum temperatures. So very, very warm temperatures. And let's have a very, very quick look at Meteoseal and see what the current temperatures are across Europe here. So, of course, we've had very windy conditions across, particularly the northern half of the British Isles over the last day or so here. Area of low pressure, not that far to the north of the UK. Tightly squeezed isobars. You can see this differential between the Norwegian low and the area of high pressure centered over Biscay. And you can see here, particularly on that southern flank of the low, we've got quite a squeeze in the isobars, and we've seen some very strong winds in excess of 100 miles an hour, by the way, over Cairngorm. Nothing unusual really for 4,000 feet at the end of September, early October. You typically get that. And of course, that particular location in the Scottish Highlands, you can get 100 mile an hour winds at any time of the year, of course. So current temperatures look like this here across mainland Europe. So you can see plenty of kind of summer-like warmth. Of course, this is now into the evening time, and we're still talking about low 20s across parts of East Germany, into parts of Poland, down in the Balkan region. Look at the temperatures across Ukraine. Remember, this is quite late on in the evening in Ukraine. We're a couple of hours ahead of the UK, and you can see here temperatures into the mid-20s. Even Moldova, 28 Celsius at Dubasari. So remarkable warmth here for the final days of September across Eastern Europe. And it's because of that area of high pressure that's going to try and build a little bit further west. So it's forcing the entire system further westwards here. What we are going to see is we've got this new area of low pressure that is going to be trying to lift north, and it is going to bring rain as we push into the early hours tomorrow morning. We've got higher pressure and control across the majority of the UK here. So with clear skies and lighter winds, we're going to see temperatures coming down. But you notice here, kind of North Midlands, North Wales, into the north of England, southern central Scotland, we've got some fairly heavy, persistent rain. That rain doesn't arrive across northern areas of the UK until tomorrow evening. So you can see here we've got more rain in the mix here, with low pressure to the northwest, higher pressure to the southeast. So we've got a bit of a squeeze. We've got a kind of brisk southwesterly airflow. It's really been the theme, hasn't it? Areas of low pressure, quite an unsettled second half of September, that's for sure. The September outlook was right in terms of being warmer than average, but certainly with regards to the precipitation, was hands down wrong. I said a below average rainfall for September, which was probably a silly thing to really, when I look back in hindsight's a great thing, of course, but I did, really only buy into the first half of September, failing to kind of think that, of course, with the exceptional warm waters around the UK, and indeed the type of pattern that we had with the tropics being as active as they were, I thought we were going to see more in the way of higher pressure across the UK and Ireland during the month of September. That really only held through the first half of the month, and then we started to see low pressure becoming the dominant player during the second half of the month. And we have seen, with the help of low pressure and abnormally warm waters around the UK, we've seen some tremendous amounts of rainfall during the month of September. It'll be interesting to see what happens during October, into November, and then, of course, on into early winter. And, of course, Joe Bastardi for many years has said very wet autumns. Despite being potentially warmer than average, it's going to be a warmer than average autumn. No question about that. The fact that we've had such a warm September, you're going to get a warmer overall autumn here. Are we going to get something similar to what we've seen during the summer, where the very warmest month compared to average was in June? Does September, hold the candle to the rest of the autumn? That remains to be seen. But anyway, back to the point. What's going to happen is we're going to start to see that higher pressure building in a little bit more as we push into the early portion of the week. And the key is that with low pressure becoming a little bit forced further west and northwest, we're going to see quite the contrast. Cooler, more unsettled northwest versus a warmer, drier southeast of the UK. And what is interesting is some of the model output is indicating some very, very, very warm conditions through next week. Now, this is the latest run of the model, and I've actually not looked at the 850 temperatures here, but you can already see by the time we reach the second half of this upcoming work week, the situation that we've got in play. Low pressure to the west, high pressure to the east. Winds coming up from the south, and of course, with that low pressure and the trailing weather front digging further and further south, that creates a bigger fetch of southerly winds. When you've got that negative, that low to the west, but the trough digging further and further south, and that area of high pressure centered where it is, you're essentially, instead of having winds coming out of a southwesterly direction, which is coming off the Atlantic, we've got winds coming in off Africa, the Mediterranean, straight up into the British Isles. And of course, with very little water separating France and England, we've got less modification of the air mass. So we could see potentially some very, very impressive warmth for early October into the UK. Let's have a look. This is the first time I'm seeing this as well. Let's have a look at the 850s. Not overly impressive if you ask me. Let's go back a few frames here. You can see here modestly milder in place. Let's skip back further here so you can see the air mass that we're talking about during the course of the week. We've got a little bit of a flirt. If you notice here, early Monday, is that the initial of the GFS ensemble? It looks as if it is actually. So this is the first push of that warmth coming into the UK here, seen by the GFS model into the early portion of the week here. But notice the latest run of the GFS has that flattening out. We've got that area of high pressure due west of France. That means the air coming around the top of that high is pulling in slightly less warm air off the Atlantic here. And then you can see here, as we play through the loop, we've got that secondary surge of warmth towards the end of the week. So that's that secondary wave seen by the GFS ensemble over London at 850 here. Some of those model members, by the way, are indicating the 20 Celsius isotherm over London towards the end of the week, which, by the way, even in the middle of summer, that would be impressive. So these warm waters, the overall warm backdrop is having an effect, and it's going to be interesting to see where this month of October goes. By the way, I should have the October forecast issued tomorrow. So you can see here this northwest southeast divide here in terms of the conditions. Not overly cold air, by the way, across the northwest, but look at that 15 Celsius isotherm reaching all the way up to the Humber. So interesting stuff. It'll be interesting to see exactly how much warmth we can get. Notice here that low pressure comes back into play once again, and we've got actually some notably chilly conditions coming in towards the period 10th, 11th of October. So that's seen by the GFS operational. Let's have a look at the ECMWF, and then we'll close at that. And you can see here the model. Let's play just simply through the 850 temperatures and see what happens. There's wave one of that warmth late weekend into early next week here. You can see the ECMWF, very similar to the GFS. And then as we play through the loop, is that secondary wave coming up? It's not quite as prominent as it runs during the overnight period, if you notice here, but that's going to be interesting to see as we go forward with what takes place here. So let's just kind of sit on the fence with this one, not get overly carried away. Some of the model output has been pretty ridiculous actually in the last few days, but we'll wait and see what happens with regards to how warm the temperatures may get next week here. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy Saturday, and we're back again with the global weather report this upcoming Sunday. So stay tuned for that. Bye for now.